Hi and welcome to Milner Browne's Wednesday webinar. My name is Niall O'Hara and I am on the SAP support team here at Milner Browne. Today we are going to look at SAP Business One, alerts and authorizations. In SAP there are two types of alerts. We have predefined and we have user-defined. In our demo today we will look at one example of each. Alerts can be used to manage your business proactively instead of reactively. You can activate alerts to automatically send an internal or external message by email, SMS or fax. Please note, messages can be sent externally only when the corresponding address details for the user have been defined in the system. To define a user's email address, use the user setup window. We won't be looking at that today. Alerts notify the appropriate parties. Please be aware that they do not stop a document from being posted. You can create different types of user-defined alerts according to your specifications. You can modify or deactivate alerts at any time. This is a look at our alerts management window. You can access it through the main menu, Administration, Alerts Management. Authorizations. A super user has full authorizations for all functions, and these authorizations cannot be modified. Authorizations allow users to view, create, and update documentation that you assign to them according to data ownership definitions. By default, a new user has no authorizations. With authorizations, you can restrict user access to documents, easily copy authorizations from one user to another using drag and drop. SAP Business One provides the following authorization options. You have full authorization. The user is able to display and modify data for that function. Read only. The user can only view but not change data. This option targets only data, so it is not available for functions that require user operation. For example, removing business partners. No authorization. The user has no access to that function. For the purpose of today's webinar, the assumption is that the user has a professional license, as a limited license will also restrict access to certain modules. Here we have a look at the Authorizations window. You can access it through the main menu, Administration, Authorization, General Authorizations. A very useful guide, how to define authorizations. You can request a copy via SAP Support at milnerbrowne.com. It will also be available on Milner Browne's website. Here's another example of the general authorizations from within that document. With that, we'll take you through a demo on SAP on working with alerts. So today we're going to look at our setting up and working with alerts. So to set up, we go to Administration, System Initialization, General Settings. In here we can check and we can display inbox when new message arrives. This should be ticked, but if it's not, ensure that it is. As you can see, update messages a minute is set to 0 here for myself. Default can be set to 5 minutes. We say OK. Then we go to back in Administration, we work down to Alerts and Management. There are a number of predefined alerts in the system. If we put in a asterisk and hit enter, as you can see there are 7 predefined. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are predefined with SAP. 6 is one I was working on earlier. That's a user-defined. 9 is user-defined. So 7 and 8 are predefined. So we're going to select deviation from percentage of gross profit. As you can see here, I've already set the profit percentage to 30 in documents. I've selected sales, quotations, sales orders, deliveries, and AR invoices. We choose the recipient for the alert, and we ensure we make it active. We click Update, and OK. Now I have a second version of SAP open here, and it's open under Sophie Clog. And we go and we enter a sales order for MaxiTech. We select today's date. We'll enter an item, office printer. We'll reduce the price to £150, and we'll add that sales order. And as you can hear in the background, there's an immediate ding on the system, and we have a message to Jason Butler to tell us that there's a deviation from the percentage of gross profit. If we click on the message, we can view the message, we can drill into the order, we can check to see what the gross profit on the order is. We can see then that it is only 0.31% gross profit on that order. We can reply to Sophie if we need to. Contact me, read the price on this order, and we can send that internally on this occasion to Sophie. Now that may take some time. While we're waiting on that, I will take you through a user-defined alert. So we go again to Alerts Management, and for user-defined alerts, it is very important that you have firstly defined a query in the Query Manager window to enable the alert to be configured. Again, to get into Alert Management, we go to Main Menu, Administration, and Alerts Management. For this, as you can see, it's in Find mode, so we need to switch to Add mode. We either can Control A, or we can click here on the Add icon. We give the alert a name. For this one, I have one set up earlier. You probably heard that beep there. That is our message going back to Sophie. So Sophie gets her message, please contact me, read the price on this order. So Sophie can then in turn reply again if she needs to. So we type in the name of an alert and we set its priority. But I have actually one created earlier, which I'm going to select from the list, which is called Test Query for Webinar. And I'm going to connect it to a query that I have prepared earlier, which is sales orders today for customer 23900 and product A00001. And we OK. Again, we have to make it active. I've selected every minute just for the purpose of the webinar. Just bring your attention to this Save History button. If we click the Save History, it saves a log of the alerts in the Messages Alerts Overview window. Leaving the checkbox blank causes each new alert to overwrite the previous one. So if I check the Save History and run the alert every hour, after 8 hours I will have 8 alerts. If I deselect the Save History, after 8 hours I will have only 1 alert. So as I say, I have it set to frequency of 1 minute. I'm going to leave the Save History unchecked. I have set it to send an alert to Jason Butler, and I'm going to update it and OK. So Sophie is going to enter a sales order, and she's going to enter it for parameter technologies, which is PP code 23900. And we're going to select product code A00001. We're not worried about the gross profit at this stage because we're demonstrating the user-defined alert. And we're going to add this sales order. And as you can see, we get a message in to Jason Butler, and Jason has been notified that an order has been entered for item code A00001, customer C23900. But you can create whatever queries you want and create alerts using those. Yeah, we'll move on to authorizations. So I just delete those. In the authorizations window, you can determine the required authorizations for the users in your company. Only a user defined as a super user can access authorization submenu and grant authorizations for other users. A user defined as a super user has full authorizations to all SAP Business One modules and functions, and it is not possible to modify the authorizations for this user. Within a module, when different components have different authorizations, the module authorizations is displayed as various authorizations. For example, in the sales module, if you have full authorizations for the sales quotation, but no authorizations for the sales order, sales is displayed as various authorizations. For today's demo, we're going to assume again that it's a professional user license, as other license type have a fixed set of authorizations. So we're going to go, just to show you some super user, we're going to go to Administration and Setup and General and Users. If we navigate to Manager, we can see that Jason Butler is the super user. So Jason is authorized to make changes to the authorizations for other users. So within authorizations, you can set up authorization groups and link users to the groups. So to get to authorizations, we go to Administration, System Initialization, Authorizations, and General Authorizations. Within here, you can create groups and you can set authorizations at group level. You can link users to those groups by going to Setup, General, Users. We select user Sophie, and as you can see earlier, I've linked her to the test authorizations group simply by clicking the little yellow square, and we get a list of the groups, and I've selected the test. If I want to create a new group, we go to System Initialization, Authorizations, Authorization Group. We create a group. We can call it whatever we like. For webinar. We can add users to that group. And if we hold down Control, we can simply select various users from the list. We select Choose, and as you can see, all those users were added to that group. We then hit add. Group test 2 is created, and here we have a list of the users. And we say OK. Now, if we click back to groups, as you can see, test 2 is there. Now, test 2 has no authorizations. So we can change our authorizations within here by giving various different settings within that group. Now earlier, I linked Sophie to test group, and if we go down to the authorizations group, we can see here that Sophie is in that group. So within user authorizations, as I mentioned earlier, we have full authorizations, read-only, and no authorizations. Full authorizations, the user is able to display and modify data for that function. Read-only, the user can only view but not change data. The option targets only data, so it is not available for functions that require user operations. For example, removing business partners. No authorizations, the user has no access to that function. As mentioned earlier, you must be a super user to change your authorizations, and there must be users created in the system. That's regular users created in the system. If you grant a user full or read-only authorization for a certain function, make sure that you have assigned an appropriate license to the user, otherwise the authorization setting is not effective. Each time authorizations are changed, the user will need to log out of SAP and log back in again. So to change authorizations for a user, we go to user. We're going to use Sophie as our example here. And as you can see, Sophie is set that she has no authorizations at a user level, but she is linked to the group test. So within the group test, you can see that she has various authorizations to administration. So if we expand that, you can see again no authorization here, various authorizations to system initialization. And we expand that out and we can see that full authorization is given to number in series. That is required for processing of documents, etc. Also has full authorizations to sales AR, purchasing, and business partner. Now, we go back to Sophie. Sophie has authorizations to enter sales orders. She has authorizations to enter purchase orders. She has authorizations to access business partner master data. Sophie does not have access to banking, but it can still be authorized by another user. By clicking on the authorized by another user, we put in the manager and manager password, and as you can see now, Sophie has now been given temporary access to incoming payments. Sophie's authorizations can be fine-tuned. So we can go in to banking. Before I do this, I'll show you, sorry, that still Sophie has no access to banking, so she still cannot get in. She still needs to be authorized. Once she comes out and tries to go back in again, she has to be authorized by a user again there. So we go back to fixing up our authorizations. As you can see here, she has no access to the banking. So we're now going to give her full authorization to the banking. And if we click Update and OK, go back to Sophie, and we click on Incoming Payments, Sophie can now access incoming payments. Sometimes you need to exit SAP for those authorizations to take effect. Now, if we look back at and look at the group, as you can see, banking has no authorizations in the group. So what we have done is we have fine-tuned Sophie's authorizations. So we've given her extra authorizations than is allowed at this group level. If we wish to copy Sophie's authorizations to another user, all we do is we say copy authorizations. We've highlighted Sophie, so it's Sophie's authorizations, and we're going to give her authorizations to Michael. Say OK. Say yes, and update. Now we look at Michael's authorizations. You can see he has full access to banking. But Michael may not be in the authorization group. So Michael is not in the authorization group. So Michael will not have access to anything other than the user authorizations that Sophie has given him, which is banking only. If we want to copy Michael's authorizations to another user, another way of doing it is click and hold on Michael's name, and we can simply drag him up, and we can drop him onto Leo, and you get the message, do you want to apply Michael's authorizations to Leo? We say yes, and now Leo has access to banking. Again, Leo is not part of the group test, so the only access Leo will have is to banking. So that concludes our demo on authorizations. If anyone would like a copy of how to define authorizations, which will give you a list of the authorizations and what they actually do, you can request them by emailing sapsupport@milnerbrowne.com, or it can be downloaded from the blog section of the Milner Browne website. You will also receive a link to the recording on Thursday, where you can download the document How to Define Authorizations. This document gives you a list of all the authorizations and what they actually are used for. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions now.